We generally view empathy as a flawless virtue. In our modern culture, the working assumption is simple. If some empathy is good, then more empathy must always be better. But Aristotle challenged this through his principle of the golden mean. He argued that life is about finding a specific sweet spot for any trait. Take a soldier's courage. If he is too cowardly, he cannot fight. But if he is so courageous he becomes a reckless martyr, he dies in seconds. Survival requires an intermediate level of courage. We apply this exact logic to empathy. Having too little is dangerous. A total lack of empathy is a primary marker of a psychopath. But what happens when the dial is pushed past the healthy center into an extreme excess? When empathy is unregulated and misfires, it stops being a virtue. It becomes a mechanism for self-destruction. This process often begins when a healthy adaptive system becomes dysregulated. We see a version of this in specific psychiatric disorders, like OCD. Washing your hands to avoid germs is an adaptive behavior, but washing them for 8 hours straight until your skin falls off is a maladaptive loop. The mechanism is the same, it's just misfiring. In the animal kingdom, this kind of hijacking is the focus of neuroparasitology. Consider the hairworm. It is a parasite that must enter the brain of a wood cricket to alter its circuitry. The hairworm's goal is to reach water so it can complete its reproductive cycle. The cricket naturally detests water, but once its brain is hijacked, it overrides its own survival instinct, jumps into the nearest pool, and commits suicide in the service of the parasite. It is a physical demonstration of an organism being forced to prioritize a parasite's interests over its own life. Human beings are susceptible to a similar process. Our cognitive and emotional systems can be parasitized by ideas that override our better judgment. This often takes the form of social guilt. By focusing exclusively on historical wrongs, individuals can be conditioned to feel an existential shame regarding their own heritage and culture. To rid themselves of this shame and demonstrate they are good people, they direct their compassion toward groups that are openly hostile to their way of life. This is the birth of suicidal empathy, compassion that targets the very forces seeking to destroy the host. You see this contradiction in the real world when marginalized groups campaign for regimes that would execute them. Like the cricket jumping into the water, they are supporting their own executioners to appease a sense of moral duty. It is a psychological jump into the abyss, driven by a mind that has been taught to care more about moral preening than its own survival. Why is this misfire happening so frequently in the modern West? For thousands of years, humans lived in a state of absolute scarcity. In an environment where you are constantly struggling for food and safety, survival is the only priority. But today, we live in a society that is spoiled by its own success. We have reached levels of comfort and safety that would be unrecognizable to our ancestors. When the immediate pressures of survival are removed, the human mind begins to produce maladaptive behaviors. We see this in biology as well. Anorexia nervosa does not typically exist in societies facing famine, like Ethiopia. It is a pathology found in cultures of total abundance. Ultimately, suicidal empathy is a luxury belief. It is a psychological rot that only flourishes when a society is so safe that it has forgotten what actual survival requires. A society dies when it cares more about exhibiting infinite tolerance and empathy than invoking its own survival instinct. When we allow our empathy to be weaponized against us, we are effectively erasing the Darwinian mechanisms that allowed us to exist in the first place. Empathy is a beautiful virtue, but it must be regulated. We must have the courage to recognize when our compassion has become a tool for our own destruction.